Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Um, Welcome to Wednesday's Facebook Live for Trust and Be Brave. Um, I hope that this finds you well, of course, and as per usual, make yourself known. I always love knowing that I'm speaking to people live. And if you are watching this on the repeat, um, make yourselves known then too. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to post them because I always come back and revisit. So it is the week before Thanksgiving. Oh my goodness, this year is going so fast. I have been in Tennessee for a little over a year, and it's feeling like home. It's been a crazy week of, you know, life as a homeowner because, well, I'll just, you know, it's just so it's a little daunting. I'll say this as a first time home buyer on my own. Um, my heat went out last week just at the same time that we hit like a low of 25 at night. It was really cold in my house for a couple of days, but I got that all squared away, and that's all being taken care of. And then I have a plumber. I mean, sorry, not a plumber, a roofer coming over because I might have an active leak in my roof. Actually, in this room, I noticed after it was painted, I noticed like uh, a couple of like water stains on the ceiling. Very hard to see in most light, but in one particular light, it's like, what is going on with my ceiling? So before I have the painters come back and give it another coat, I'm having a roofer over today to see if there's anything going on up there. So I've decided to take the total proactive approach, and just making sure everything is good to go, um, and taking care of things as they come up. So, welcome to home ownership. The dream of my new Italian stove is sort of further off in the distance now. I had this hope that I was going to get this fantastic stove for my new kitchen, but the stove I have works perfectly well, and so I'm just going to hang tight with it while I see about all these other far more important things, like heat and a roof. So anyway, the joys of home ownership, they're hitting me early. Um, excuse me. And so I'm looking forward to next week, and I'm looking forward to um, a dedicated day on which to give thanks for all the goodness in the midst of all the weirdness and the insanity and the craziness. There's so much goodness, and I think there's goodness close to home. You know what I mean? The world is so big and so vast, and is completely out of our control. Um, but the things around us are are in our control, and and I just know from my own experience that there's a lot of goodness close at hand. So let us get to this crazy topic for today. I just want to say hi, Gina. Hello. Hi, Phil. Hi, John. Hi, Sonia. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Nice to see your names there in the comments. Um, so, we are going to talk about really the nature of a career in voiceover. That's what we're talking about. Um, a string of wins and then nothing. Um, and I guess whoever posed this question, used the term the manic depressive nature of voiceover. And I'll say that uh, it is the roller coaster of being an artist and being an entrepreneur. And but it's different than just being an entrepreneur. It's different because um, because in a certain sense, being an entrepreneur, you can sort of bring things up to a particular level of success, and you can kind of get it working like a well-oiled machine. Um, and of course, we always, no matter what business we're in, we have to pay attention to what's happening, and we have to look ahead, and we have to make plans, and we have to stay on top of things, right? Um, that is also true of voiceover. It's true of anything, right? Any artist business. But then there's that nebulous thing. There's that uh, um, what do I want to say? It's like, because uh, we're bringing our artistry to something. Um, it always feels a little bit different, because in that regard, we're actually bringing our voices, like something very, it's attached to us, in a lot of ways. A lot of businesses, our business is detached from us. There's a very clear, marker between our lives and our business. And I think as an artist, our lives are always intertwined into our business. And I think it's probably why it can be so unnerving when our work drops a little bit, when we're doing the exact same things to keep the engine running, but we're not booking. Like, that's the weird part, right? Because generally speaking, if you own a restaurant and things are running well and you're advertising and people are coming in and the food is consistent, right? And you keep your service up to speed, like, it all kind of flows. So what is that weirdness about being an artist, where things drop, where we can book a series of things and then have nothing? It's very disconcerting, I will say. Um, and I have, throughout the course of my career, experienced um, that disconcerting, you know, feeling. And what I what I know of it is this, right? There are certain things I think we just have to accept about our business, right? It is cyclical. It does go up and down. It it is a roller coaster ride. And I think we do ourselves a disservice if we expect anything other than that. But if we can say honestly about the nature of our careers, if we can speak honestly about it and acknowledge that that is a reality, then we can begin to adapt and work with and understand and know that it's not personal and know that it's cyclical, right? Um, and that things will always be changing. So I'm constantly this. I really started to adjust my attitude about this in the 90s. That's such a long time ago, but it seems like yesterday to me. Um, where I really had some great, great, great success, and then experienced, the loss of particular jobs, things ending, right? Things that became um, things that, accounts that were sort of foundational to my income, and one day they just kind of say, okay, well, really what happens is, like, I had the Hyundai account for 2 years. Um, I did all of the dealer spots across the country for Hyundai. It was a fantastic union job. I made a lot of money. I I I had that account through the commercial strike of 2000, where they recorded a lot of commercials before the union went on strike, and then during the strike they ran them. And so while other people were, honest to God, losing their homes because they couldn't get commercial work, which was the mainstay of their business, I had my one of my best years to date. Like, I was very, very fortunate. And yet, at the end of 2 years, the way I found out that I wasn't going to be on the campaign anymore was that the audition came through. Right? It's not like anybody says to you, "Hey, we're gonna shift up our advertising in 24 months, so just keep that in mind." Nobody says that to a voice actor, right? Because we're just we're a link on a chain, we're a cog in the wheel. You know what I mean? And um, so those are the kinds of things we have to come to expect. We if we get a great job, you can expect to lose that great job. You just can. It is very, very rare to go longer than 2 or 3 years on a campaign, let's say, right? Yvonne, I see that you're there. Um, Ed. Oh, who had Mastercard? No, Visa. Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. That was Ed Grover. Ed Grover. Ed Grover had that account for Visa for, I want to, probably for between 15 and 20 years. And I think everybody thought, well, Ed Grover's going to have that. He's going to have that account forever. Everybody remembers that slogan, right? Visa. It's everywhere you want to be. He was fantastic. Yeah, Ed Grover. Exactly. Thank you for the confirmation. Everybody kind of thought, well, Ed Grover's going to have that forever. Ed Grover didn't have it forever. He had it for a very long time, but not forever, right? So it is the nature of the beast that we're going to lose our jobs. We are. It's built in, right? So this is why to have a kind of a plan, if you will, for all the things that we need to attend to with our careers. And there are a lot of things, right? But when we're busy and we're working, we're not tending to those things. When we're busy and working, we're not necessarily tending to our websites, and we're not tending to our demos, and we're not tending to marketing, right? We're working. Everything's rolling, right? And so the thing that I finally grasped somewhere in the mid to late 90s was, wow, when I'm not really working, perhaps I should use this time to do all the other things that are important to my career. Um, and that's how I shifted my that's just how I shifted my mindset about it. Like, I have so much other stuff to do. I should get that done while things are a little slow with work. And what that does is it engages you in your career, right? Um, it helps with your, these are the times when you think about your branding. These are the times you think about whether or not your demos accurately reflect what it is that you do. And so once you begin asking those questions and you start revamping a few things, and it might be a complete overhaul, but it might not be. It might just be small little adjustments that, like, sometimes with my website, I'm like, I'm really happy with my website, and I go, you know what? I'm going to employ a different color, a different color scheme, and all of a sudden the thing looks refreshed and new, and I feel refreshed and renewed. And when I feel refreshed and renewed, when I step back into the booth, my reads are refreshed and renewed. Because because again, our person, our actual physical person, is tied to our careers, you know? So if I'm experiencing in my life happiness, joy, confidence, contentment, those things are going to be reflected in my read, right? So it all goes hand in hand, right? But we have to think holistically about our careers. And then when we're not booking, because we're thinking holistically, we're still actively engaged in our careers. And so it's like, yeah, okay, so I don't have bookings this week, or I only had 2 this month, or I only had 1 this month, or perhaps I had none this month, right? What's the other stuff that I need to do in order to keep the wheels turning on my business? Um, uh, John, yes, you're going through a very disconcerted time right now. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a shift in mindset. And and I think also, I've witnessed this in my friends' careers as well, because we all sit around and talk. We used to anyway when we would gather together. Um, we'd go out to dinner and we'd sort of share our wins and talk about the thing, and all of us read on the same stuff, right? So we're all in the same category, if you will, right? And so we could sit down and we could talk about, oh, did you see the slew of, McDonald's commercials that came in? And invariably, one of us would say, yeah, I booked that, and so I think something else happened between us as well when we would talk about these things. I think we each really worked hard at containing the envy piece, or the not the envy piece, because I don't know, is envy so wrong? It's the jealousy thing, right? Of like, oh, why, how come I didn't, and then starting to beat yourself up because you didn't book it and they did. But instead to ask questions about, what did you do differently? Or what, can you play us your audition? That happened a lot. Like we would sit and go and it'd be like, yeah, let me bring it up, and we'd listen to it. And it's like, wow, really, really great read. Excuse me. Really great read. Like I understand why you booked it and I understand why I didn't. And then it would turn into conversations about, like, well, so what were you thinking about how you brought that particular read to this copy? Well, I took a coaching session with blah blah, with whomever, right? And I learned about blah blah. It's like, oh, wow, that's great, right? And so there's always this exchange of information about what people are doing, and how they are, um, how they're booking. And it really is true that, um, if I'm not booking, my friends are. Sometimes when my friends aren't booking, I am. And uh, so inside of that, you begin to really understand that it isn't just you, right? We're all on this roller coaster together. It's not just you, right? Um, the other thing I want to address is that I think it is far more difficult now to earn a solid living only as a voice actor. I say that with a bit of sorrow and grief. Um, but I think rates have declined. And I don't mean just non union rates, I mean union rates. The union has really, I could do a whole day on my issues with the union and the things that have been negotiated in our contracts these days. We are making less money and we are doing more work for less money. That's the truth. Um, and so, there were periods in my, over 3 decade career where I relied upon the income of my spouse. That's just the truth for us to make ends meet. And it meant that I didn't have to go get a second job, right? I didn't have to do that. But there were absolutely times in my career where I had periods that were so slow that I needed to go pick up some money, doing other things. Um, I this was this was for sure in the late 80s, and in the 90s. Um, I worked for a catering company. I waited tables. I waited tables for the first decade of my career, um, until, yeah, well, yes, and and I worked at night, uh, and and I built my career, and again, even back then, it was up, down, up, down, up, down. Um, but I never felt badly about having to wait tables. It's just life. We have to put food on the table. And we have to keep a roof over our heads. No shame, no crime. Right? And then when I stopped waiting tables and things were a little bit more established for me, there were a couple of years where I worked for a catering company and I could work when I needed to. I didn't have to, I wasn't a W-2 employee, right? It's like they might call and say, "Hey, are you available this weekend to cater blah blah?" And I would say yes, or I would say no, So I only worked when I had to. And then in the 2010s, late, what do they say, the aughts? Is that right? I never understood that term. The early aughts. What does that mean? The early 2000s? I have to get to know that word. It's an interesting word. It sounds archaic, and I love archaic words. I want to say it was around 2008, 2009. Um, and it was a slow period, very slow. And my friend, I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and my friend ran a tasting room at a winery in Santa Ynez. And so on the weekends, I would go and work the tasting room, and I would pour wine for people. I happen to love wine. I happen to love my friend, and I loved being up there. And so it was, it it was a fit. And again, I could sort of do it when I needed to. Um, and so that too it's a piece of the reality. Um, and I wish I could I wish I could offer something different about that, but I think that is the reality, and it's the nature of a life in the arts. Um, it's it is, and so so I want to say this: when when things are going well, you know, be mindful, be prepared, prepare yourself mentally that you're up. It's like you're riding up the roller coaster, and what goes up must come down, right? So we're preparing for that, and we kind of come over and we start to head down. And on the way down, do not despair, because what goes down at such a rapid pace has momentum to pick you back up and take you on the uphill piece again, right? So that's the image that I want to leave you with, right? That it is a roller coaster ride, but that we don't get too haughty like when things are going well, because jobs always leave. They do. But there are always more jobs. Just like there are always more auditions, there are always more jobs, right? I've lost some beautiful, beautiful work. And I look back on it with tremendous fondness, but it's gone. Um, and other beautiful things um, come along. So that's that's the shift. You're an artist. That's what you are. And you are in a tumultuous career. That's what you've chosen, right? Um, so eyes open, right? Coming to accept that and acknowledge it um, is a really good thing. And you know what? If it happens upon you, I always think it's like winning the lottery, because I know people who make gabillions of dollars in voiceover still. Like they haven't worked a day job since they started 40 years ago, right? Those are the exceptions, and I have had a good career. I have a good career, and I have had times when I've needed to supplement my income. And again, there's no shame in it whatsoever. It's the life of an artist. It's a badge of honor, I would say. We persevere. We persevere through this difficult stuff. And if we let it, it makes us, you know, strengthens our metal, right? Um, so I think that's sort of it. Lisa, I wear so many hats. I do podcast production, audiobook casting, project managing, all fine with me. Yes, that's right. Jill of all trades, master of none. I would venture to say that perhaps you're a master of many. And you speak to a really good point. You don't just have to do if things are slow in one particular area, you don't just have to, find a job outside of the business, right? There is a lot to do. Um, and learning to become an editor is a man, that's a coveted, that's highly coveted work, right? Like to have that skill is fantastic. Um, uh, and here's the other thing, right? Not only do we diversify in terms of you know all, all of the support uh, the support jobs around voiceover production, demo producing, engineering, editing, all of those kinds of things. Oh man, what was I going to say? It just left me. We also want to diversify the kind of voiceover work we do. Like for a while there, I was really doing a lot. I was booking a lot of animation there for a while. Well, I haven't booked an animation in a couple of years, but I started reading for dubbing. I book a lot of dubbing. I book a lot of dubbing. It's crazy. It's union. It's not the best rate, but it's, as I like to say, it beats working at Jamba Juice. I mean, the rate is significantly better than most rates for most things. Um, so so remember to diversify your actual voiceover career. Commercial narration. If you do promo, you have access to promo. Keep your promo skills up. Um, uh, Animation, video games, dubbing, audiobooks. When one area is slow, usually another area is working, and when that area goes dormant, there's another thing that picks up, and that's sort of the best way to ensure that there's at least some work coming in, right? So diversify. What do you need to diversify? Well, if you don't have particular skills in a particular area, go get them. And if you've been at voiceover for a while, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to, start at ground zero. You can take workshops, which, one day workshops and stuff, which tend to be a little bit less expensive, but there's a lot of concentrated information you know, that you can gather. Um, so so keep that in mind too. It's not just, oh wow, okay, I have to go get a job at Lowe's. You don't necessarily. But um, if you do, good for you for doing it. That's the most important thing, right? Um, so I'll leave you with that. It's a shift in your attitude about the expectation of the career that you've chosen. And the career that you've chosen is on a roller coaster. That's what it is. Nature of the beast. And to expect anything other than that is foolhardy. Um, and and really, you have to look at people who are journeyman actors, journeyman voice actors, not the stars. Don't look to the stars for. And I must sound like, oh, don't aim high, but that's not what I mean. You know, I I just mean that we get these pictures in our heads about, oh, I want to be an actor. So, gee, let me look at Brad Pitt's career. No, no. It's like, look at David Atkinson's career, right? If you don't know who David Atkinson is, go Google him. He's a fantastic human being. He's a journeyman actor. He lives the life. He stays engaged. He books here and there. He's a character actor, right? But he's in the struggle of it always, always. And he has good success and he has terrible droughts. And that is the life of an actor, right? So that's what you've chosen. Um, and that is a far more realistic picture of what it's like to be an actor, to be an artist, right? So we all dream of winning an Oscar, but even four of the people nominated don't win. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to see if there are any more questions here, any more comments. Um, let's see. Uh, yeah, Phil, same here. Yeah, uh, a live sound engineer. Yeah, I mean when you're interested in sound and you're interested in audio, um, yeah, get involved where you can, right? It all whatever contributes to your knowledge base is a good place to it's a good place to start. It's a good place to look, right? So I hope that was of help to you. I think I talked longer than I usually do. um, and as always, feel free to ask questions, specific questions, if you want and if you need to, and use the wisdom of the group. There are a lot of really wise people in this group who've had a lot of experience, and they are happy, happy, happy to share it. So I will. I actually I don't think I'll see you next week because it's the day before Thanksgiving, and everybody will be busy. I think doing their Thanksgiving thing. Um, Sorry, I don't know why I have this stupid cough. I'm still working on it. It's very strange. My health is good, but I have a very strange little cough that just appears out of nowhere. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. All right. Have a fantastic remainder of the day and week and a great weekend. And I won't talk to you before Thanksgiving directly like this. So I truly wish you a blessed Thanksgiving. And whatever you may be going through, even if it's a you know, a quiet season, a season of um, confusion, um, a season of darkness, you know, um, there are blessings to be found, and I pray that you find them. I do. Um, Even the little things, even naming all the little things, is a real big help to our mindsets and our constitutions and our sense of ourselves in the world. So bless you all, and we will talk after Thanksgiving, and it'll be December. What? All right, loves. Take care. Ciao.